So I think when this all started, honestly, my first thought was not the church and what the church would be doing for us.
I wanted to understand, I guess, mostly how we were going to continue to stay connected.
You know, when this all happened during Lent too, we were doing Lenten services. We've actually decided to keep doing Wednesday evening services as well, using Facebook Live, and we've done then separate children's sermons for the children, as well as a separate Sunday school time as well. That's all done virtually.
The staff over at Calvary has put together so many different avenues for us to stay in touch with the leaders. They've given us content to watch via social media. They've done a phenomenal job with live dinner church on Wednesday nights, live sermons on Sunday mornings.
You know, we go to church, we sing the hymns, we, pray the prayers. We really, that's important. We like that.
One of my favorites is a couple who serves a Methodist church in Moose Lake, and they do a fireside chat from their house. And I love that.
As time has evolved, the worship experience has become more rich. We've also introduced other Bible studies during the week.
You know, it has been just a huge emotional lift every time I'm able to tune into my Facebook Live with our faith community. I mean, seeing the names of all of my friends pop up as they're coming in and seeing people love things that they're hearing and just having that interaction. I mean, we don't even really have that kind of same interaction when we're together physically in our worship service.
We also at our church have a preschool, and they're continuing to do preschool lessons online virtually. So I think, like a lot of congregations, we've moved towards trying to become more adept at that.
Just having that opportunity to gather and see our community has been very important, and to hear the word and hear some good news in the midst of all of the terrible news that we're faced with every day. Just having that message, and to know that we have a community that's all struggling and we're all going through this together. It's been really great to have that.
It's, in some ways, it's kind of interesting to see how worship has become more intimate back in the home again. In some ways, where, faith has come home to roost again in some regards.
The outpouring of support from the congregation has been, right to Calvary's tune. We didn't miss a beat. I think I've heard from the people behind the scenes that we actually have an increase in Sunday live attendance.
I think the really interesting thing about that is you find that the pandemic has made community in person more difficult, but in this time of kind of a pause, if you will, in what ministry is often like, they're now reaching some people that have not been very active in church through reaching out to every member of the congregation. And what they've found through that is that they've brought them back in because they are able to tune into the virtual services, if you will.
I'm a crafter. I make cards, and so I've been reaching out to our pastor about if he needs some handmade cards to send to people, just to keep in touch with people and let them know that we're thinking about them. And so last night I made a dozen cards that I'm going to be sharing with them, and they're just hello cards or thinking of you cards.
We need that connection, and even if it isn't face to face, in any way we can keep in touch. That's what we need to keep doing.
And then, like a lot of congregations, I think we're struggling to figure out how do we do service in this environment, right? So we have a group that's been sewing masks for not only our members of our congregation, but for organizations that need those masks, and then trying to figure out what are other ways that we can be involved with the community, even if we can't be in person.
I hope as a church we are prepared to make some of the really, really hard choices ahead of us so that we can resurrect and rebuild and renew and all that.
We'll probably grow into that as time goes on and this becomes a new normal, and we realize, how we have to work as a church community in that new normal.
And I think for those of us that have a leadership role to play, that's an important message to think about, the importance of adaptability, and that we can use this time as a real kind of pivot point in our thinking.
It seems like a good time to stop and say, who are we and what are we about?
It will take some rethinking, but that's what ministry is all the time, is thinking of new ways to do old things. And so we're continuing to work on that, I would say.
We're going to learn some lessons through the pandemic that will allow us to do that and to reach people that we haven't reached before, or to reach them in a different way.
And we've also taken a little bit of a pivot as we've looked at how we're going to help the community and touch the community as the needs of the community have obviously changed. And so just as a recent, one of the things we're doing is those that are able to give more, we're putting together a fund to help those that within our community that have lost employment because of COVID. So really tangible way to reach out and to show our love and that we're there for people.
Mount Olivet continues to do loaves and fishes, right? And it's heartening to see the ministries press on in virtual ways, regardless of this thing.
There are ways for people to contribute to share the love of Jesus Christ in your community through being who you are and knowing the special ways that you can love your neighbor. We are identifying ways to help our neighbor, but don't forget about yourself and what you need to do personally and to, help yourself have some semblance of order in your life. And it's that whole adage of taking care of yourself so you can help others.
One of the things I didn't ever really want to give up, I don't give up, is my daily reading of my devotions and scripture, and really making sure I'm connecting with the Lord every single day.
It's not about me trying to figure out what we're going through. It's all about the grander plan and sticking to His idea. Not trying to figure it out day to day, what's going on, when's the end of the tunnel. Just breathe, relax, and have faith that He is carrying you.
I have been actually kind of on a spiritual journey because I've been doing a lot of reading, and I feel like I'm growing spiritually in that way because I have time to do it and I'm paying attention.
I mean, I think this whole experience with COVID and what's happening, I believe, is a spiritual opportunity like no other. And I feel it is going to enable us to get back in touch with what's really important.
Throughout all of time and throughout all of history, there are times of distress and times of, desperation for God's people. And just knowing that we have an awesome God and a God who is steadfast and strong, and He can take it. He can take my rants. He can take my praises, my joy.
It really struck me how the uncertainty that was taking place during Jesus' final days and the uncertainty that we were feeling about the pandemic. And then post-Easter, kind of the response of the disciples was to, they didn't know what was going on and they were fearful and they locked themselves up in a room, right? And so there are a lot of different ways to really kind of pick up on what was happening there, or to the road to Emmaus, right? Thinking about Jesus being present with us even when we don't recognize that He's there or that He's with us. And then what does that mean when we finally realize? And then how do we go about unlocking the door to get out of the room to do some service again back to the world? So I think it's made the realization of what's going on, made the Easter story more real for me. And post-Easter story as well. And I think that there are a lot of people that are kind of turning to their spiritual life and thinking about what are the connections and where does the Bible talk about me feeling uncertain and doubting and wondering, and where do we find hope in the midst of that?